As many as 1 million Canadians suffer from severe allergies, and experts say the number is rising. As a result, more and more families will be made to feel like prisoners in their own home. That's what it's like, even when the most everyday food could potentially kill your child. Ryan Vella went to Gatineau, Quebec, to find out how one family copes.
Max is 9. He's allergic to peanuts, nuts, legumes, some fish, chicken, potato, and pumpkin seeds. His brother Xavier is 6. He's allergic to dairy products, eggs, and peanuts.
My name is Karen Eck, and I'm their mother. And my biggest worry is that our children could have a severe reaction, and if they don't get proper medical treatment, they could die.
Peanuts is one of the, ones that could kill me. I could die.
Max was 2 years old when he had his first allergic reaction. The trigger? Green beans.
His eyes were so swollen, he looked like he had like half a golf ball under each eye. He looked like he'd been in a fight.
Dairy products pose the biggest threat to Xavier. His family takes every precaution to protect him.
Tape la main! Tape la main! Hey, viens ici. Donne-moi un bec. Moi, je suis fière de toi.
Even kissing, if I've had any kind of dairy that day, and I haven't been, sure to I haven't washed my mouth thoroughly, I won't give him a kiss.
Xavier first showed signs of an allergic reaction when he was just a baby and developed a terrible rash on his face.
So off again to the doctor. Well, I called and I said, he's crying all the time, I'm crying all the time, and this is affecting our quality of life, and I would like to see an allergist.
Before we had our kids, I didn't know what allergies were. Honestly, I had no idea. I had no idea that people had to go through this.
We were in shock because I didn't even realize people could be allergic to multiple things.
Can I have a hot dog tonight?
Yeah, you can have a hot dog tonight.
Karen and her husband Claude are teaching the boys how to be safe around food. They're allergic to different foods, and that makes meal planning even more challenging. Max needs dairy in his diet, so there are milk products in the house. But just the residue of dairy products could trigger a severe reaction in Xavier, so cross-contamination is a major concern.
Well, this is my brother's shelf. It says Xavier's Safe Foods, right there. With this tofuti, better than cream cheese, and this ketchup.
The children know not to share anything. They don't share food, they don't share utensils, they don't share straws, nothing.
We do a lot of hand washing. Sometimes for a dinner you may wash them 20 times with soap. That's the key really when you cook. And I do not take a chance. Never ever I take a chance. If I don't know, it goes away and I take something new.
Severe reactions to foods are much different than the runny nose and itchy eyes people sometimes get from leaves, grass, or pollen. That's because food is ingested right into the body, and it can cause a systemic reaction called anaphylaxis.
They could get, for example, swelling of their airway to the point where it can actually close off and cause respiratory collapse. Respiratory collapse can then lead to cardiac collapse or the heart stopping.
That's why the kids are never without their EpiPens. The auto-injectors administer the life-saving drug epinephrine in case of an emergency.
The person has to be lying down, you swing it gently until it does, and then you hit it so that it does that click. You wait for about 10 seconds, and then you call 911.
There were a couple of close calls when the kids were small.
Basically, I was home alone with the kids and very tired just before Christmas, husband working a lot, and served Xavier his rice milk and Max his cow's milk, but I switched the glasses.
Xavier drank it 2 times. We had to go 2 times to the emergency. 2 times he barfed. 2 times I had to go to a friend, and 2 times I had to watch it.
I should have given him the EpiPen then. I think I was a bit in denial. And I think a typical reaction is on the part of the parents sometimes is that you just are hoping it's not going to happen. Okay, so that's their lunch on Tuesday.
Every meal is planned in advance. Restaurants are too risky, vacations are out of the question, and their social life's suffering too.
I know there's a lot of birthday parties going on, and I hear about friends talking about all these birthday parties. I'm like, we go to like 2 a year. But they don't know about it, so I don't talk about it. You know, if somebody had told me 7, 8 years ago, this is how you're going to be living, you know, I would have just fallen off my chair, laughing or crying, I'm not sure what. But I mean, I don't like to cook, and I don't like to grocery shop, and I'm not a big food person. Food for me is, you know, not my obsession, but it's become my obsession.
So checking labels is critical. Many foods contain peanut products, and a recent American study found that peanut allergies doubled in children between 1997 and 2002. Food companies are taking notice. They're responding to a growing demand for products that are peanut-free. Keeping the kids safe at home is one thing, but their parents have to take a leap of faith when they go to school. So it's a huge relief to Karen that her children's principal, Jean-Éric Lacroix, sees this as a serious and growing problem.
When I first started here, I was surprised to see the number of kids, up to 20 kids that have some allergy problems. So it's a big number, and we need to work together, all the adults in the school, to help those kids to have a good and secure life here in the school.
Now, along with reading, writing, and arithmetic, the kids also learn a bit about allergies. And teachers have EpiPens in the class and know how to use them. Their school is now a peanut-free zone.
If you had a child for whom a particular food is toxic, it's the same as putting a container of some kind of poison in the middle of a classroom. I can't think of any parent that would really feel comfortable having rat poison on their child's desk. Even though you say, well, they're not going to touch it and they're not going to go near it. Can you trust a kindergartner or a grade 1 not to accidentally get some on their fingers and then not to accidentally put their finger in their mouth?
It's a public health concern in some ways. This is something where you could potentially affect the child if you weren't aware, if you weren't educated about it.
Xavier, do you have your e-belt on? Yeah.
And despite their young age, the boys need to know what those consequences could be.
It's not the kind of thing you want a child to obsess on. You want to acknowledge it. You want to say, you know, we're not doing all this stuff frivolously. It's important, and, you know, Mommy wants you to be around for a long, long time. And they're just aware, and I think at a certain age, you know, and I try to make sure it's age appropriate. I think children are aware of death, and I do try to say, listen, death is not a bad thing, but I don't want it to happen to you. And we talk about, you know, if it happens, you're going to go up, you'll be in heaven, and there'll be people that can help you. So I get all kind of teary, but I think it's important to acknowledge it.
The incidence of severe food allergies is greater in children than in adults. 6% of North American children are affected, and the number is rising.
It seems that in the first world we're experiencing these rates of rise, whereas in the third world they're not. So there's a lot of talk about why that is. There's many theories, and one of the most popular theories that people will read about, both in the scientific literature and in the popular literature, is the hygiene hypothesis.
It turns out we may be too clean. According to this theory, we live in an over-sanitized society, and that has changed the way our immune systems function. Our modern, highly processed and modified food supply is also a suspect.
There's a lot of theories about why, and it's probably multifactorial, it's probably many things contributing to that rate of rise in food allergies in children. We use lots of vaccinations, we're given antibiotics for lots of different conditions, infections, and some people would believe maybe they're overused. So if we create this sort of almost sterile environment, then perhaps our immune system will develop towards an allergic bias.
My sons had allergies long before they had their vaccines, and we still got them vaccinated and everything. But, you know, has something happened to us, like the parents that had these allergic children, did something happen to our system?
Recently, things just got a bit better for the boys when their parents took a calculated risk.
My kids are almost 7 and 9, and they had never been to McDonald's before. I mean, they'd seen it, and they'd heard from friends, and, you know, gazed longingly as we drove by. But I honestly, I hadn't had the courage to do it.
My mom had read all the ingredients of everything, and I was capable of having the Happy Meal.
We did as a family. We went off to McDonald's and we talked to the server and we talked to the manager and we said, please wash your hands and no cheese, and had a safe meal, and the kids were practically bouncing off the walls. They were so happy. you always keep it in the back of your mind that, wow, one day we're going to get rid of all these allergies. And if they do, that would be a very strange existence, but I would certainly welcome it.
I tell you, those of us with kids in the school system, it's such a huge issue, the allergy issue, and how, if your kids don't have allergies, how careful you've got to be for the other kids. Now, Ontario does have a law to protect students with life-threatening allergies. It requires school boards to train staff in dealing with severe allergies and to have emergency procedures in place for students who need them. And last month, British Columbia ordered its schools to adopt similar policies. Alberta, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island all have voluntary guidelines for their schools. So you can see this issue is going all across Canada and all around, the United States, England.
And it's interesting to see how consumerism is responding, because you see companies like Mars and others who now boast about the peanut-free bar, and you see all of these foods, so you know that it's common enough, that it's a big enough problem that major food companies are responding as well.
But the debate about it, and they touched on it in the piece, the debate about why is this happening? Is it the hygiene reasons that they talked about or is it are there other reasons? Is it the mass commercializations of food? So this is a debate no one really knows, but it just seems that this epidemic is spreading.
And it's sad. I remember when I was working in New Brunswick, there was a young person there who had shellfish at a party and died almost instantly, and nobody knew what was going on. So treating it...
That was years ago.
Years ago. Nobody knew what was going on to save the person. It wasn't until actually a little bit of time later the next day. So you can imagine how important it is that parents and the people who actually have the allergies
EpiPens.
have the EpiPens, and that people in authority know how to use them.